Hey everyone, I'm Aaron Potratz.
And I'm Nathan Hawkins.
We are the Shrink Think
Podcast,
Podcast.
baby.
Enjoy the show. All right.
That was so contemptuous what I just did.
It was. That was a really, oh my gosh.
It was on camera.
I think we got that. That was a really bad. Like, I was like, what did I do? Oh my gosh.
It's like you.
Just looking at that, I'm like, I feel so bad. Like, I hurt you so.
I think of it's like yawning. Mm-hmm. Like you yawn and all of a sudden everybody's yawning, mm-hmm. Like you do a contempt look, it doesn't matter. You can pretend and people are like, I think he's going to kill me. The silent killer. Yeah. That's what contempt is.
Mm-hmm.
He's
all right,
silent.
Let's get this going correctly.
It's the ninja
ready?
of death. Sure. No problem for you.
You done?
I'm trying to be.
Okay. There you go. Hey everyone, welcome again to the Shrink Think Podcast. And I say again because I know you're on a binge streak right now. And if you're not, then you should be. So go back and listen to a few more episodes and then come
Build
back.
up steam.
That's right. Come back to this one. No, actually, we're back again because we are recording a series on the Gottman 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse in relationships. If you did not listen to the previous episode, again, I encourage you to go back and listen. It's the first one of the series. We're going through these 4 horsemen, which are essentially relationship killers. And the 4 horsemen are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. In the first episode, we talked about criticism and its antidote, which is a soft startup. And today, we're in this episode, going to be talking about the second one, which is contempt, and its antidote, which is building a culture of appreciation. So in a relationship, one of the things we talked about last time was that when you, do these behaviors, it introduces stuff into the relationship that kind of becomes poison, or that becomes something over time that degrades the relationship, takes it off course, takes it in a direction you don't want to go. And so obviously, as therapists, we don't want that to happen to you or to your relationship, because we value people. We want you to be happy and healthy. We also don't want you in our office on our couch arguing with one another, because it's really kind of annoying to us. We're like, nice. Oh my gosh, get over it. Like, can we all just get along? No, we want you to be happy and healthy, because ultimately that's what helps people to live long, and for our society just to be better in general. That's what we hope for as therapists. We just care about people. So we're going to talk today about contempt and what that is. Essentially, there's a couple of components. One is there's like an attack on the person's sense of self with an intent to insult, and that's key, because if you think about contempt, it's not just you said something and it came across the wrong way, or you were upset and you said something that you didn't quite mean. Because usually you might be upset and you're like kind of trying to defend yourself, and it comes out kind of as an offense. You're like, I didn't really mean it like that, or I didn't mean that, Mm-hmm. But contempt, on the other hand, really is like this position of moral superiority. It's over time, at some point, you've realized your partner's an idiot, and you're not. They do all the wrong things. They are the problem, or they are the one who's getting it wrong, or whatever. And oh my gosh, you just can't tell them enough times. Or why don't they understand? Why can't they see what they're doing? Ugh. Do I have to explain this to you again?
Of course they don't get it.
Okay, fine. Let me break it. Let me slow it down for you. Well, it's when you start doing these stupid behaviors that you just can't figure out, that I've told you millions of times, right? That's like, I'm intentionally trying to make you feel bad because I'm so frustrated and I think that I'm in the right and you're in the wrong. That's contempt.
There is we can separate out the idea of how was it again? I'm cheating. I'm totally cheating. But the idea of intent to insult a little bit with the idea of moral superiority, right? Because you could have, I've worked with plenty of situations where you've got the eye roll, or you have like the big, oh my God, like those are a bit more towards moral superiority, because they're not, the person in that moment is not hoping the other person feels stupid. They are just believing that the other person is stupid.
Exasperated with how stupid the other person
right.
is.
Which means they're so awesome.
Oh my
right?
God.
It's like, it's just an automatic response. Okay, here we go. Well, little Johnny actually turns out to be the biggest dum-dum I've ever seen. Little Johnny's the marriage partner that's the same age, right? right. Like, anyway, so contempt is, in my mind, is built a lot in shame. It's this idea of like shaming the person, and you're doing it to who they are, because that's how the person's experiencing it. It's not like in my mind, it's worse than criticism, because it's not about. I mean, criticism totally sucks, and it takes and it takes a long time. But some people, I guess it varies, but it'll wear somebody down if you think of something like you're chipping away at who they are. Contempt is just taking a gavel and just judging them with this whole thing, with the intent that, like, if they shatter, you're like, of course they shattered. Of course they're no one, and I destroyed them.
Yeah, maybe to say it, I actually was, when you were saying that, I was thinking this very example, like criticism is like throwing a dart at the other person, or maybe like taking a pencil and like, jabbing them. It's like, ow, it's kind of like you want to defend yourself, and it's small. It can be small enough that you can push it off and defend yourself. It hurts for sure, and it can certainly hurt somebody over time with like a million different jabs, death by 1,000 paper cuts kind of a thing. So it can certainly hurt. But contempt, on the other hand, when I think about this and I feel it from another person, it's more of like being stomped out. You said being crushed. It's like your entire spirit is just like the air is completely left out of the balloon, so that you're deflated, both as a person and as a relationship. It's like you become hopeless or helpless. And that sense of shame kicks in, where it's not just that there was a thing that hurt or a piece of me that was hurt. It's like all of me, right? I feel like I, as a person, am just the worst human being, and there's just no other alternative.
Yeah, and that belief about it is very final. So there's a finality to it. And so this is what I would say, if in regards to like where this stuff comes from. Because I'm dealing with or talking about shame on purpose, because if you have the shame to put on somebody, it's because you already have it. So I find that people that are the kind of the best contemptors or most contemptuous probably are carrying quite a bit of shame for themselves. They typically are probably pretty hard on themselves, or somebody has been really hard on them. They don't understand their own value, and they don't have a way to value others that's just like handily ready. They might even think the antidote that we're going to talk about in a couple minutes is like kind of like a pie in the sky, ultimately crap. Like, oh yeah, be positive, man. Like that kind of idea. We'll talk about it in a couple minutes. But this idea of shame, it's like they have the shame blanket that they're already wearing, and they're like, here, wear this weighted blanket. And I hope it suffocates you, because it should suffocate you, because I'm suffocated. But go ahead.
Yeah, and kind of along with that too, I think there's an element, I know we're kind of bringing back in here at this moment, bringing back in the moral superiority. But in my mind, it's also like a positional difference between you and the other person, where if you're watching this on YouTube, you can kind of see my hands moving, where like one of my hands is above the other and the other one is below the other one, because in terms of the position of relationship to one another, one of you who's got the moral superiority and is giving the contempt to the other person is giving it from on high, from above. It's kind of like you're standing over the person, looking down on them, shaming them, and telling them they are less than you, as a person. And so that positional thing is really damaging.
Yeah, and I think it is, I'm going to keep going here a little bit about the background of this, because I think it's important. If you're coming up, the moral superiority component, right? Where does that come from? Well, it comes from this idea that if you yourself, let's say that you're the contemptor, if you yourself have shame, how do you fight it? Well, you fight it with having to remind yourself and tell yourself that you're right, right? That's not true. Whatever you've heard before, you're totally right. So when another person has an issue, the only option you have to respond with it is, well, you're awesome. You can't, because we've talked before about empathy, right? Like we've done a whole entire podcast episode on empathy. What do you have to do with empathy? You have to try to think back about what you feel towards another person in order to try to connect with them, right? Well, a person that struggles with contempt is not, at the moment that they feel the feelings of the other person, they become just as angry about that as they would for their own self when they didn't get the experience, right? And so it's a shame-based response.
In other words, I would even say it's an inability to actually connect with the experience of the other person, and even with the experience of yourself for having made a mistake. It's staying in that position of authority, even within yourself, saying, and usually people like this beat themselves up pretty harshly when they make a mistake, or they're not allowed to make mistakes. They go into shame spirals, or maybe they're just extreme perfectionists or whatever. And so if you make a mistake, you can't connect with that weaker side of yourself because you judge it as so bad, so awful from your position of moral higher authority or whatever, moral hierarchy, and you're just putting that side of you down. So you can't even connect with that side of yourself, let alone with the mistake in another person with any kind of compassion or empathy, because you're still on that sort of moral high horse.
Right, which is where, and I think we could transition to the other side of this coin, which is where, when you have like the antidote, which is appreciation, what's one of the components is being appreciative, very difficult to do, because how can you at the same time have this moral high ground and be appreciative of the other person's experience? I mean, because the judgment with the moral high ground has been made, so therefore you don't appreciate what the other person, actually, to be honest, you're not appreciating the other person, like in their humanity.
Yeah, relationships just don't survive and they don't function long term unless they're like this, where you have like an employer-employee relationship kind of a thing, where that hierarchy is built into the structure. But within a relationship, that there is no hierarchy. It's that we are on the same level. We are peers. I am at this level, and you are also at this level. I have thoughts, feelings, desires, fears, needs, and you have those same things, and they are both equal. One is not more important than the other is not less important than the other. They're both equal. So maintaining that equality is really important in a relationship, and the way you can do that is with appreciation, because it's recognizing that the other person may make mistakes, and I also make mistakes, but they also do good things and contribute positively to the relationship. And what are those things? Mm-hmm. And if I can maintain a positive image about the other person, even when they do something wrong, then I'm keeping things balanced. The other person and the relationship is not all negative, or this moment I'm not allowing what they've done to be the defining feature of the person and of the relationship, right? Which is where contempt can come in. But I'm remembering who this person is, and remembering kind of the full body of their work and of their personhood, of like, yeah, you make mistakes and so do I. And I also do good things and so do you. And so I'm gonna like appreciate the things that you do, remembering that when you make mistakes, is like, I know you don't always make mistakes, and that's okay.
So think, as you're building, the idea is to kind of build this culture of appreciation, right? So how you're doing that, for those of you that struggle with contempt, and those of you, I will tell you, the people that are doing that are the people that maybe you're really proud of how good of an eye roller you are. There's shirts out there that have different phrases, funny phrases about eye roll is my superpower, that kind of thing. I mean, I have people that I've worked with that this is a big deal. Like, I actually kind of have I don't know, the shirts and stuff are funny, but I'm dealing with situations where the eye roll stuff is so automatic, it's pretty devastating to the relationship moving forward. The person doesn't even really, what they would tell me is they can't control it. Like, And it's like, okay,
You can actually.
that's not actually true, but it does make sense that you kind of have to start somewhere, right? So when you're building the culture of appreciation, for example, what I mean is maybe saying something to the person like out loud about how you appreciate them is not quite where you are yet. It feels weird. It feels awkward. You feel stupid. It's probably what you would tell me. You start with just remembering that, like what Aaron was already talking about. Like, okay, my partner is not. What they just did is not who they are. It is one behavior of many. What did they do today that you didn't think was, you just maybe even didn't think about? And then you realize, oh, well, they actually made coffee this morning. Well, they didn't have to do that. Okay, go ahead.
And let's actually, let's step out of the moment, and building a culture of appreciation, let's say, is not even in the moment of a conflict or an issue or an argument, but
Right.
it's just you're waking up, or you're going throughout the day, or you're just, living your life, and there's no conflict, nothing has happened, right? And intentionally notice the things that your partner is doing and has done that you actually appreciate. This is kind of like if you have a bad attitude or you tend toward depression, then something as simple as practicing gratitude every single day, like pick 3 things each day that you are grateful for. It can be like raining outside, but you're grateful it's not snowing, or it could be like, hey, I'm grateful that I only had to go from like my house to my car and then my car to my office. Like, I didn't have to be out in the rain so much. Like, okay, because I hate the rain and I just didn't want to be in it. I'm grateful for that, right? When you do those things, when you practice gratitude, it actually does change your mood and change your attitude. In the same way, appreciation changes your attitude toward and about your partner and your attitude about the relationship. So if you're practicing those things just on an everyday basis, it's like you're more able to remember those things in the moment when something's gone wrong, because you've been pointing those things out and actually appreciating them.
And the thing of it is that you actually do need to see them because they actually are there. It's not like you're faking it and you're going like, well, I'll just try to look on the positive. Like, no, there are good things happening every single day. It actually is happening.
Maybe you can say something about relationship bank accounts, because that's a good metaphor. There are these ideas out there about relationship bank accounts that you need to make deposits into.
Right, and that's where I'm going, is the idea that you have to say this stuff out loud. If you want to change this, and that's what would be putting stuff in the bank account. You have to appreciate the person out loud, because it works not just as an antidote, like in the moment. If you can manage to like get outside of the situation and then remind yourself and then tell them, it works up front ahead of time, and that's where the bank account thing comes in, right? If I know that my partner appreciates me because they've literally told me, and they've told me things that they did appreciate, that are actually behaviors. Number one, I'm going to want to do those more. I will want to do those more. And number two, when maybe there is a fallout where like they are contemptuous towards me, I will remember what they said before. I won't be starting from zero. They come in and take, I've got $150 in the account. They come in with contempt and take $10 out. Okay, well, it sucks. I have $140. But if I have $5 in and they try to take $10 out, I've just fallen on the ground and collapsed.
Like alarm bells are going off.
That feels bad. But I do want to emphasize, you have to say it. There's so many people like, well, I didn't say this. I could have said this, like, and then I didn't. Like, okay, great. You shouldn't have.
Right.
You good job for taking out the trash.
That's like, good job. You showed up to work. That's default.
Yeah. You need to actually say what you appreciate.
Yeah, and I just want to add to this. The Gottmans also say in this book, I know they said this in lots of other research, but in their book, Fight Right, which I can recommend, great book, they talk about conflict and how to do it well, different types of people who are in conflict, different styles. There's a 5-to-1 ratio that they talk about. They say that inside of conflict, you need 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative comment, gesture, or expression. That's inside of conflict. Outside of conflict, guess what that number is? 20 to 1. So it's this idea of bank account stuff. It's when you're inside of conflict, you need to maintain some balance or still continue to make deposits, positive deposits into the relationship bank account of appreciation so that the other person knows. It's kind of like reassurance. It's kind of like reminding them of the security of you, of me, of us, and of our relationship, that even though we're arguing, even though we're fighting right now, I still have a perspective of like, hey, I still love you. I still care about you. I still want the best for you and for us. And I'm still with you. I'm still on your team. And we're okay. We just are talking through something. We're having a disagreement or we're not seeing eye to eye. But we'll get there. We'll figure it out. It's like reminding each other of those kinds of things, which need to happen. Otherwise, I think you can get into this if you're just negative, negative, negative without any of these positives. And I know we're talking about contempt, but it'll breed contempt. That's the idea, is you start thinking, oh, my partner only thinks negative about me, and they think really negatively about me. That's where I think contempt can come in.
Yeah, the idea behind all this, it's not good. It's shame-based. It will kill it.
Don't do it.
You need to stop doing it.
Just stop it.
Stop it! But you know what you do need to do? Have a great day.
I agree. That was good. What'd you see about that?
Casey leaves it in.
She notices.
Yeah, it's just gone. You'll never know because you don't listen to the episode.
That's true. No, I don't listen to the episode. Occasionally I will, like twice a year.
Yeah.
Does it twice a yearly sale.
I do every once in a while. I was going to listen to him again because I wanted to see what the how they've changed or whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I should. Yeah.
There's definitely a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, somebody was listening told me the other day, and they're like, well, yeah, I have a totally new client that I had, and they're like, well, yeah, that's actually pretty good. I'm like,
that always makes me feel so good. That? Like, I was expecting crap, but you were actually not too bad. I'm like, thanks. So good.
Yeah, I think they listened to the intent one. I think. Anyway,
we've grown a lot since then. That's for sure.
We have grown incredibly.